everyone, and welcome to the Victoriam Solutions podcast. We call it Salesforce Simplified. And I'm Mike Boyle from Victoriam Solutions, and today we're talking with Victoriam consultant Sean about Salesforce's B2B Commerce. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, pleasure to be here, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. Let's just dive right into this. So tell us, what is B2B Commerce, and why should businesses care about it?
So B2B Commerce is a Salesforce e-commerce solution, meaning it's part of Salesforce's product offerings. And what it's kind of designed to do is expose a company's product catalog online and allow self-service checkouts. So really kind of really putting the power into your customer base's hands, allowing them to get in there, create carts. If you're running promotions, you can get some discount codes in there. And the other thing is you can brand these sites specifically to your customer. So if you really wanted to, make it feel like your customer was top priority number one, and you built a whole platform around them, you've got that option. So why should companies care about this? It opens up an additional revenue stream for the company. And allows your users to take a step back from that order process and let your customers place orders on their own. It also opens up a new channel for customer engagement. So you've got this whole new site that your customers can interact with, and based on some metrics coming from the site and other metrics, you can kind of tweak this site and customize it to really meet your customers' needs.
Gotcha. So we've established B2B Commerce is a Salesforce product. So does that mean it connects to everything in a company's Salesforce org?
It does, for the most part, yes. So essentially what happens when we install B2B Commerce into a Salesforce org, we will end up with a whole suite of new objects. And these objects we can use standard Salesforce functionality like process builders, flows, and build some processes off of our B2B Commerce objects, which extend over to other clouds objects. So, like for example, Sales Cloud, we connect B2B Commerce to Sales Cloud quite frequently, and the way we do that is essentially an order would come in. And then we would go spawn an opportunity and some opportunity products associated to that to be worked to completion. So we give the customer what they want. And then if you're already using Salesforce, we can kind of align that B2B Commerce functionality with your existing business processes in Sales Cloud.
So what differentiates B2B Commerce from other e-commerce solutions?
So I think the number one differentiator is the fact that it's built on top of Salesforce. So we get all the power of the world's number one CRM right at our fingertips. Like I just mentioned, we can extend this functionality into other clouds. So Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Pardot, you name it, we can connect to it. But the other things, with these legacy platforms, you would see a lot of custom code go into those sort of implementations. So custom code takes a little bit longer, to implement as well. It's timely, it's expensive, and it's not very scalable. One of the challenges that B2B Commerce took on is how do we make this a little bit more user friendly when we're setting things up? So they adopted a clicks not code methodology for this particular product, which means that instead of coding a page into existence, we have a handful of templates that we can use, and we're dragging components and functionality onto the page rather than having to spend hours and days and weeks coding a page into existence. It could take less than a day, maybe just a couple of hours to stand it up.
Gotcha. So tell us, what does a standard B2B Commerce implementation look like?
So there's four main areas of focus when we're implementing B2B Commerce. One, we focus on the storefront itself, so the general look and feel and functionality that will extend to the customer. Two, we focus on storefront integrations. So with every storefront, we generally see three integration points. One, payment processing gateway. This is the most frequent that we'll see. If you want to accept credit cards or ACH payments, or you know, like if you want to accept any sort of electronic payments, you're probably going to need a payment processing gateway. Payment processing gateways keep you PCI compliant, so you're not holding on to any customer's credit card information or bank account information. And they also, it facilitates that checkout. It makes that checkout just a little bit easier for everyone. The second thing that we see pretty frequently is tax calculations. So this doesn't apply to all business-to-business companies. A lot of the times we'll see some tax exemptions. Maybe you're selling to a reseller of some sort. Maybe it's a government agency that you're selling to. But we still see it frequently enough to include it in the top three. If you want tax calculated, we generally are going to need some sort of tax calculation platform. Whether it be like an Avalara or a Vertex, or maybe it's a custom table hosted in your ERP. And then the third piece of that storefront integration would be some sort of shipping service provider, so UPS, a FedEx, because we would need to return some sort of rate that we would then go capture on with the payment processing gateway. So those are the top three for the storefront integrations. The next area of focus would be our product offerings. So, we need products to sell on our platform. Without that, we've got a website with very little content on it, maybe some marketing material, some menus, and some categories, but we don't have products. Defeats the whole purpose. So with that, it's not always as simple as just loading in our products. There's things that we need to take into consideration. Yes, we need the raw product data, the price points, extended product descriptions, product names, SKUs, things of that nature. But in order to have a really functioning or like a truly functioning B2B commerce platform or e-commerce platform in general, we need things like product media. So we need images associated to our products. We need spec sheets. So things that, areas that our customers can go and look at, make some comparisons against other products, facilitate that checkout or facilitate that self-service checkout. And then things like category association. So we need to define click paths in order for our customers to find the products that they're looking for. So it's the kind of behind the scenes work with that product data that a lot of companies that are going into these initiatives overlook. And we end up spending more time in the implementation getting these things ready when in reality we could be working on these things before we start an initiative. That way that once we start the initiative, we're hit the ground running, we've got all of our data compiled, and we're ready to rumble. Kind of in tangent with that is a lot of, there are use cases out there where we might want to set up subscription products or kit products. And these more than likely look different in Salesforce than they do in whatever database that you currently house your products in. So there is a need to kind of sit down, define what these kits and subscriptions look like, what components go in the kits, how frequent are we billing for subscriptions, things of that nature, so that we have all of that data at our fingertips and, again, can hit the ground running when we're setting up these complex products. The last piece of product offerings is we need to make sure that we're extending the right set of products at the right price points to the right customers. So essentially we need, before we go into an initiative or maybe during a discovery of the implementation, we always need to define what a customer should see within the storefront. And that might be broken up by individual customer. It might be groups of customers. It really depends on how you have your pricing structure set up. Last area of focus, back-end process. So what happens after a customer places an order? Are we integrating with an ERP, so sending everything to the ERP to be handled? Is there some sort of manual process that we need to set up? And other things like, what happens if a customer runs into an error that someone needs to resolve? some internal team member needs to resolve. So setting up those rep assistance processes and things of that nature.
That just sounds like a whole heck of a lot of work. You're going through all those 4 areas. How long does it take to do a B2B commerce implementation?
So it definitely varies depending on the customer and the requirements that come with each. So to be fair, it is a fair bit of work. But that said, if you come ready to play with some relatively clean data, we're not spending weeks trying to sort through data and checking and verifying that, yep, this is in fact real, or nope, that is not real, or yep, that is a duplicate. Assuming that we have some decent data to work with, we can get these stood up in under 2 months using mostly out of the box functionality. Now, if we've got to go down a custom route, we generally see that extended to somewhere around 3 months.
Wow, that's pretty quick at the end of the day. Is B2B commerce strictly for B2B type sales? Can you use the platform to sell directly to consumers?
So B2B commerce is not strictly for B2B type sales. It is branded as such because there is a more specific B2C product that Salesforce offers. But that said, just because Salesforce has another product out there that's designed for for B2C e-commerce platforms, doesn't mean that B2B can't be extended to be B2C as well. So we do have the concept of guest users. These would be users that don't log into the platform. They're just browsing, and we would define a set price point for all of our products for these particular guest users. So kind of when you're thinking about the differences between B2B and B2C platforms, a B2B platform is designed to handle more complex ordering scenarios. So massive kits, split shipments, things of that nature. And with a B2C platform, they're generally a little bit you don't see it as complex ordering scenarios. The whole goal of a B2C platform would be to get your customer to check out very quickly and handle large spikes in user traffic. So think about if you think about like a Nike platform around the holidays, it's going to see a whole lot more internet traffic than it does in, say, the middle of February, right? You're not going to see as many users after the holidays as you would before the holidays there. So those sort of platforms need to scale to hit those holiday spikes, and they're designed to get those users out the door very quickly. When we're thinking about B2B commerce, it still has fast checkouts. There's more clicks involved, but again, it's designed to handle those more complex ordering scenarios, so it needs to account for a couple more things, right? And then the platform itself, you'll never see a performance issue unless you have over 1 million people browsing the site at one time. So the short answer is yes, B2B commerce can be used for B2C type sales. I went on a little bit of a ramble there.
It's okay. That's we're getting the picture. So listen, you've done a bunch of these implementations. Tell me about some of the feedback that you've received, from a client after it's been implemented. I guess I'm looking for like the oh wow factor. There's got to be some of that.
Yeah. So I think my favorite story is about a small audiovisual company up in Alaska, actually. So these guys are, it's husband and wife, our CEO, CFO, definitely started very small, have kind of started to flirt with that mid-market, range. And so they came to us and, they wanted to do a B2B commerce implementation. Very much out of the box, not a whole lot of customization going on, not a huge budget to work with. So we stood this project up in around 4 months. And at the end of that, they were able to bid on a RFQ, one of those RFs, for the state of Utah. So other big names that were competing with this RFP were people like Amazon, Office Depot, some big box names and brand names that you would recognize. And then there's this small little audiovisual company out of Alaska. So time goes by, they get their RFP slash RFQ or one of those RFs submitted, and they end up winning the bid. They beat out Amazon, they beat out Office Depot. They are exclusive. They're exclusively contract with the state of Utah. And now, since they've done such a good job, they're kind of smaller. They're definitely cheaper than the rest of the competition. The national organization in charge of giving out these bids is taking a look to extend it to all 50 states. So, it's really cool to see what this platform can do for companies. It opens a lot of new doors. Everyone's looking for that e-commerce solution. People want to buy digitally now, and that is becoming a differentiator for some of these companies.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Last thing I wanted to ask you, Sean, is what would your advice be for some company considering implementing a B2B commerce solution?
So I think number one is make sure that your data is in a state that an outside third party like Victoriam Solutions, so a consulting firm, could come in and work with it, manipulate it, make sure it's not, make sure that we're not going to be spending weeks and months cleaning up this data beforehand, because at the end of the day, it's money out of that company's pocket, right? It's things that could be done internally relatively easily that you will end up getting charged for if you're working with a consulting firm. The second thing is understand your ordering process. So, an order comes in, what happens after that order comes in? What processes need to take place? Who needs to be notified? Et cetera, et cetera. And, kind of in tangent with that as well is what happens during the ordering process. What forms need to be filled out? What information is key to processing this order? And I think the last thing is, at the end of the day, these platforms are only successful if you have user buy-in. So, and your users in this case are your customers. So you really need to focus on the user experience. So during phase one, it's a little tough to focus on the user experience because there's so much that needs to be stood up. But the first thing after you launch that site, you should be reaching out to some core customers, getting their feedback, asking what you can improve on, what they like, if the platform's easy to work with. Just identify that core group of power users and get their feedback so you can iteratively build upon this platform.
Wow. Well, listen, I really want to thank you for spending time with us today, Sean, and giving us all this great information about Salesforce B2B Commerce. Thank you.
Happy to be here, Mike. Anytime.
Wonderful. And if you would like to learn more about how B2B commerce can help your business starting in weeks, not months, visit our website. It's advictoriumsolutions.com. I'm Mike Boyle from Victoriam Solutions. Thank you for joining us for our latest Salesforce Simplified podcast. And if you like what you heard, be sure to tell your friends to subscribe to our podcast on their preferred channel. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, we sure would appreciate a 5-star review for today's episode. Helps us get the word out about our podcast. Thanks again, and we'll be back again soon with another edition of Salesforce Simplified.